Assalamu alaikum, my name is Shareen. I'm currently a senior drug and alcohol practitioner working with offenders in a prison setting. My experience ranges from working with the youth, I've worked with domestic violence. A lot of the time I've worked with victims of crime and troubled teenagers. Now I've taken it further instead and challenged myself, and I'm now working with offenders with a lot of drug and alcohol issues. Domestic violence is where you're living with somebody, whether it's cohabiting, whether it's your partner, whether it's your family, in a setting where there is any form of abuse, which could range from psychological, physical, sexual, even financial abuse could be considered in that setting where it becomes out of control and obsessive and very threatening. There are many signs of domestic violence. Domestic violence could range from threatening behaviour. It could be something as simple as preventing you from making phone calls, somebody being really abusive, always putting you down, never communicating with you. So it ranges from a small scale where people don't, a lot of things people just don't see happening when your partner starts, just being very withdrawn from you. Your partner starts checking up on everything you're doing, starts taking you away from your supporting mechanism, so not letting you be around family, not wanting you to be with your friends, isolating you. They're the smaller signs of domestic violence, and obviously it goes further into abuse. Not letting you leave the house. A lot of women refrain from leaving their house. Their husbands will not let them leave their houses, will not let them see anybody, and that's when they have broken all contact from the outside world. Start taking their money, so the woman has no responsibility of her finances. Like I said before, it gets as bad as sexual abuse, where she's forced to do sexual favours on her husband when she really doesn't want to. And I say husband, it could be anyone within that family setting. My advice to the brothers would be, learn about yourself, get close to Allah, because if you are in a situation where you're threatening your wife, you are abusing your wife, whether it's emotionally, psychologically, sexually, violently, something's not right. You have to accept you have a problem, and if you don't accept you have a problem, you will have to stand before Allah one day and answer to these things, because you were told by the Prophet ﷺ, treat your wives gently, treat them kindly. The best of you are those who are best to your wives. So within that, there's a lot of understanding that one does not understand. How can you say, I'm a believer and I fear Allah, but yet the person who Allah has blessed you with, your wife, you are abusing and treating in that kind of way? Brothers, you need to wake up. You really need to understand this is wrong. This is not from Islam. Whatever guidance you have been given in Islam when it comes to your wife should obey you and you're allowed to hit your wife, the Prophet ﷺ never touched one of his wives. Never has he beaten one of his wives. The clear example in the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, when he was annoyed or angry with his wives, he abandoned them. He left them for a month and gave them an ultimatum. Either they live according to his way or he will divorce them. These are the real examples that Muslims should be looking at. Violence is oppression, is harm, it's not from Islam. So my advice to you brothers is, if you need help, go and get the help. There's help for you as well. I know there's an organisation called Respect. If you Google Respect domestic violence, it helps those who are perpetrators in domestic violence. But really sit down and evaluate yourself, because this action is just not from Islam, it's not right. There's many ways for victims of domestic violence to get support. I myself worked for an organisation called Victim Support. In every area there is a victim support office, so you can contact them. You just have to Google who your area is and just type in victim support and you can get support there. There's also the National Domestic Helpline, and the National Domestic Helpline supports you practically, meaning if you need emergency housing, you could get emergency housing. If you need emotional support, they will refer you on to who you need to be referred on to, maybe a legal representation, different things. Within your local communities, there could be a lot going on. You just have to go to your local masjid. Unfortunately, there's so many organisations that say they deal with domestic violence, but in actual fact, in that moment in time, my advice to Muslim sisters especially would be, follow the Islamic route, meaning go to your wali, go to your family members, speak to your local community. When you see there's no help in there, then I would advise you to whatever needs to be done to protect yourself and your children, and I would contact these organisations, especially the National Domestic Helpline, because sometimes, unfortunately, we have to go by the law of the land, and if it needs be the police, then I would say if you need to take that route, you take that route. If it needs an injunction to protect yourself, then I personally would say go through all of that, but obviously go through your Islamic rules first before you look on the outside.